Hello all, welcome to my YouTube channel. So in today's video, we are going to discuss how we can use Azure Active Directory with our ASP.NET Core web application or web API. So as we know, we use Azure Active Directory for authentication and authorization purpose. So what does it mean basically? If we are going to integrate Azure Active Directory or Entra ID with our application, it means we are securing our application so only valid user should have or can have access on our application. So let's see how we can integrate AD with ASP.NET Core web applications. So there are some requirements which we needed to integrate Azure AD with our ASP.NET Core web application. So the very first requirement is you should have active Azure account. Second is you should have Azure Active Directory. Third, obviously we are going to integrate our ASP.NET Core application. So we need a project where we can integrate this particular AD things. Third, where basic knowledge of Visual Studio that is also required, because there are two or maybe many options to integrate Azure AD with our application that we are going to discuss in little later in basically in a demo. So we will know how what's the basic knowledge of Visual Studio should required. And obviously you need a Visual Studio because on that we are going to create our first applications, or you can use if you like any other ID which you have preferred, you can use that one also. And another requirement, we have a .NET versions which is required 6.0.16. This is the latest and long term supported version, that's why I have mentioned here. Otherwise there are many .NET versions which you can use as per your requirement. And the last requirement, we have app registration on Azure Entra ID. So we will see all these things one by one. So let me quickly move to our Visual Studio. Let me minimize this particular presentation. And this is Visual Studio 2022. I'm using it here. If you have 2019, you can use. It's basically completely up to you. So the first thing what I'm going to do here, I don't have any Azure, ASP.NET Core web application. So I'm going to create a first ASP.NET Core application. So and then we will integrate that particular application with our Azure Active Directory. So let me quickly create a new project here. So here I'm going to use a template. These are many templates which you can use based on your requirement. So I'm going to use ASP.NET Core Web App Model View Controller template to create our first project here. Okay, let me minimize the PS. So this is the template which we are going to choose in this particular video. Now we will provide the name of our project. So let me provide a name, demo ASP, and the location where you want to store your project. So this is basically you are going to do in your local system. So I have defined the location here, D drive. The folder name is source code. So under source code, demo-asp will be created. And there is an option, if you want to place a solution and project in a same directory, it's completely up to you how you want to configure this particular thing. So I'm going to keep it same in a same folder. I don't mind to keep in a same location. Now click on next. So now you have to choose a framework from here. So in presentation I have mentioned .NET 6.0 because it is long-term supported version. That's why I have chosen .NET 6.0. If you want to choose a different versions, you can use that one also. Now authentication type. So here is the main thing which we are going to see. So there are two options. Either you can configure or Azure Active Directory from here itself during the project creation. So here you have to choose a library called Microsoft Identity Platform. So this will basically install some kind of NuGet packages which is required by ASP.NET Core application to authenticate to Azure AD. But for now we are not going to do. Okay, let me, okay. So authentication type, first I'm choosing none, later we will configure. So there is an option from here also you can integrate, but we will create a project first, then we will configure it. So let me hit on create button here. So what it will happen, the first ASP.NET basic project it will create for us. So it will take couple of minutes to create this particular project. Okay. So now you can see our demo app project is created. Let me quickly build this project. So we will, during the build, we will see if we have any issues or any missing libraries or anything, like basically you can test during a local build run. So you can see a build one succeeded, zero failed. It means this project is working fine. Let's quickly browse it by clicking on this particular button. So if you want to Dockerize or containerize your application, you have that option also during the project creation, or after the project creation also you can do it. So you can see in localhost 7245, this is the port number where our application is listening. So this is a simple demo application or sample ASP.NET Core application home page. So it means this our application is working fine. But you can see when we browse it, it is not asking for any kind of authentication. It means this is not secure. And if you have to see what about this port number, from where it's coming, that particular thing you can check it from application settings.json file. Sorry, my bad, it's not application.json file, it should be in a launch settings file. Let me quickly stop the application and I will go to properties, and here you can see the launch settings.json file. So here is the port number, you can customize this based on your requirement. So here basically we define what kind of URLs, what kind of port we have to use for our .NET application. So let me close this one. Now you can see the directory structure, that you can see the connected services, there is no service dependency discovered. So there are few files on this. As soon as we integrate with Azure AD, you can see a lot of things here, like extra packages, extra libraries, it will automatically add for us. So the first option was you can choose authentication type Azure identity web from project creation itself. But now what we will do, we will right click on our application and we will go from here add, and here we will use connected services. So you can see there are currently no service dependency configured. So what we will do, we will add from here, because we want to integrate with Azure AD. So here we have to search, let me search it here, identity. So you have to choose this authentication for your application using Azure AD or Azure AD B2C. So I will choose this particular dependency and click on next. So this is a library again. Once you choose this particular library, you have to choose few packages or few tools as well, which is required for authentication or to interact with your application to Azure AD. So you can see is installing required components, which is obviously required for authentication purpose. Now this is the main or important part which we have to keep in mind. So now I have already logged into my Microsoft account, so that's what it's already showing my user account here, my Azure Active Directory account. If you don't have, you have to add your Microsoft account from here. So I am already logged in. So now what is happening from this particular window? From this particular window, basically we are going to create a app registration under Active Directory. So let me go back to my browser here. and let me open Azure portal. So where exactly we do the app registration? So you have to go to Microsoft Entra ID, because earlier it was Azure Active Directory, and here you will search, go to manage, and here you will see application registration. This is what it is going to happen from the Visual Studio. So you can see I have a lot of, like, almost 4 or 5 app registration here. What Let me go back to my here, let me create a new one from here. So I will put it name here, demo ASP. Now if I go back to my app registration, we don't have anything called demo-asp app registration here. So let me quickly register it here. As soon as you register this particular application, basically in background what is happening, we are going to register this our demo-asp project with our Azure Active Directory. So you can see there are a lot of things. It's generated client ID, which is required to authenticate or to know your application, okay, from where you want to connect. So those particular things we are going to cover from this particular part. So if I go back to my Visual Studio, let me refresh it. Now you can see demo-asp. So this is the new app which we are creating from Visual Studio, is registered with our Azure Active Directory. Now next thing what we have to do here, we have to, if you want additional things like Microsoft Graph permissions or any API permission, you can choose it from here. So for this particular demo, let me choose add Microsoft Graph permission. So Microsoft Graph API permission is basically provide, okay, what kind of permissions, like you want to read all the directories, all pages, like all those things basically you can configure with Microsoft Graph API permissions. We will see in Azure AD after creation of this particular project. Now let me click on next. Here you have, it will create a client secret. So this particular secret will be stored in your local system. You can see save client secret and local user secret file, or you have do not save value anywhere. So some kind of authentication from Visual Studio, it is going to happen in a background. So if I'll go back to my Visual Studio, let me go to demo-asp app, and if I'll go to manage app and certificate and secrets, you can see we don't have any zero certificate, zero client secrets. So this is the one secret which will be created from this particular window here. So let me click on next. Now you can see there are a few more things which is going to add in your project. So NuGet packages, secret store, all these things will be added in your application here. So let's click on finish. So basically these are a lot of the dependencies which is required by your application to connect to the Azure AD or Entra ID basically. So here we have seen two options during the project creation. You can add in Azure AD from your application, or after project creation also you can add with the help of this NuGet packages. And another third option also we have, which is basically a manually from that also I will come in little later. So this is completed. Let me go to my app here, and if I'll go to connected service, you can see Microsoft Identity Platform. It is connected now. And what happened in background basically, let me quickly browse this application. Earlier when we browse it, it is automatically open our application without asking any authentication, or like you without any username and password. It directly open our application in the browser. But let's see what happened here. So you can see it's redirected to this particular Azure Active Directory. Okay, how you want to open your application. This is the user account which I have configured. So it is asking, so basically now authentication is enabled in our ASP.NET Core application. So I will see, okay, constant on behalf of your organization. So I will provide mine because I'm an individual user here, and let me click on accept. Okay, so now we are seeing localhost page could not be found. Let me copy this URL here, and let me go back to my Azure AD account here. So something is missing. This is what we are going to see. I'll go to my authentication tab and let's see what's the redirection, web redirection URLs here. So this is HTTPS localhost 7245. Okay, so this is the basically these are the redirecting URL we have to add, and let me see what is happening, why it is not working. So let's quickly troubleshoot this thing. So redirect URL is already configured. In our case the URL was 7245 7245. Let me quickly refresh it. Okay, no issues. Let's see API permissions. So all the permission is already there, like offline access, open ID, user read and all. So this is already there, so nothing issue is with here as well. Okay, let me stop this application. Let me quickly rebuild our application. Let's see if is there any issues during the build. Okay, so build is also succeeded, zero failed, zero skipped. Now what is the issue? Let me go back to my client secret, because sometimes if you have multiple secrets, that will also cause the issues. So you can see a client secret which we have created there, that will be your under this particular location, your user profile, app data, roaming and all. So you can see here secret.json file. Let me open it. So this is the client ID, client secret 36 something. Let's quickly verify it. I'll go to my client and secrets. So 36G, I think similar we have here 36G. Okay, so this is also fine. Now what is the issue? Let me go back to my Visual Studio and rerun the application. Okay, so what I will do, I will see if we have configured our HTTP port as well. So if I'll go back to my properties launch setting.json file, let me stop this application. And here the URL is localhost 5110. Let's quickly verify in authentication tab. So 5110 is already there, 7245 is already there. Let me quickly remove these things. Okay, accounts in any organization directory. Let me save it. Okay, so why it was not working? If you can see in program.cs file, there is an option called use app.use authentication. That was not configured here. That's what it was not redirecting. So let me save it here. This should be in your program or starter.cs file. So this was missing in my case. That's what it was not working. So if I'll run this application again. Okay, now you can see it is going to authorize client ID. and you can see we are logged in with our user account. In my case, this is my user account which I am using, which I have used in my ASP.NET Core application. So let me sign out here. So it will sign out. If you have any other user account, you can use that one also. That's how basically we integrate Azure AD with our ASP.NET Core application. So if I'll quickly show you, if I'll just comment this particular line here and I'll just save it. Let me stop the application. And if I run it again, let's see what happened. You can see we are getting this localhost because it authorized, but it is not authenticate. So that's what we have to. If I just uncomment this particular line, app dot use authentication, and let me save it, and I will rerun this application. So now you can see we have logged in with our user account, Azure ID account. So this particular few configurations you have to keep in mind while working on integration part with AD on your application. It could be any application, and everywhere you have to specify authentication and authorization parameter. And also, if I go back to my controller here, you can see here there's an option called authorize. So you have to, if you have multiple controllers or pages and you want to authorize what all the pages should be authenticate, or sorry, authorize, then you have to use keywords in all your controllers or pages. So that also you have to keep in mind. So these are the two options. During project creation or after project creation, we can configure or we can integrate our Azure Active Directory with ASP.NET Core application. And if you don't want to use these connected services option, then again you have to do similar things. Let me quickly show you. I have one of the Azure wiki page which I have created for myself. So if I'll go to my source code here, and if I'll go my wiki pages, so let me see here. So you can see, let me show you the option 2. So this is the all things which we have already done it. So this is the option 2. So once you create your project here, you can see no service dependency discovered. Now manually, if you are not using BS directly, then what you have to do, you have to add these following NuGet packages. Same thing we did from BS, but if you want manually and you want all the configurations, like these are the basic structure or basic configuration which we did because we only have one controller or one page. If you have multiple controllers, then you have to do extra configurations as well for your application. So these are the NuGet packages which is required, which you have to manually install to connect to Azure AD, and these are the basic libraries which you have to use. And manually you have to go to app registration, you have to create a new app registration, you have to mention this redirect URL, and later you have to configure your app settings or JSON file with these Azure AD's detail like client ID, secret ID, all these things you have to mention. And then you have to add few parameters, few configurations in your program.cs files. So if you can see these particular line which is 10.1, so here we are setting up the authentication for ASP.NET Core application using AD. So all these configurations you have to do manually if you want everything to, like if you want everything should be manual, then you have to do a lot of configurations in your project. But I would suggest, if you have option you can directly configure all these things from BS itself, then I would suggest you should use that option. Else you have to do a lot of configuration changes in your program.cs files. Then home.controller, like in my case there is a one page only, so here also you have to use a lot of things. So you can see this is the before configuration, the default one which is created during project creation. After config you can see a few parameters like authorize, few things we have added here, few sections. If you are using graph AI, then you have to use this particular code part. So everything you can got it in from Microsoft documentation itself. So I hope it's clear how we can use application, or sorry, Azure AD with ASP.NET Core web or web API. So I hope it's clear. If you have any issues, let me know in a comment box. I will definitely try to respond as soon as possible. So that's all for today. See you next video. Thank you so much.